Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Car and Car Attorneys. We're going to talk today a little bit about the spring season and the tornadoes and all the awesome weather. My name is Carrie, and I'm one of the case managers here at Car and Car in our Tulsa office. And this is?
My name is Wilson White. I'm one of the attorneys here at Car and Car. I'm in the Tulsa office, and we also have attorneys in our Oklahoma City office, and we welcome you to another edition of our situation today, what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about today springtime in Oklahoma. Carrie, how was the weather this week?
It was pretty crazy. We had some pretty severe storms. At least we had some really bad ones in Tulsa, and I do believe we had some pretty severe ones in Oklahoma City. And lots of touchdowns from tornadoes and flooding. So it's been a pretty eventful week already.
And this is just kind of the start of springtime in Oklahoma. We do want to make an acknowledgement today. I believe it's the 20-year anniversary of the large F5 tornado that roared through Moore, Oklahoma. Our thoughts and prayers from the Car and Car firm, Tulsa and Oklahoma City, are with all those people, all those victims, and the tremendous redevelopment that they've done down in Moore. I read a nice article about Moore. Their population has been growing, even everything they've been through. And in that tornado, as it relates to insurance, the winds on the F5 scale were in excess of 300 miles an hour. So you can imagine with the storms we had this week and flooding, lots of things you want to be covered for.
Right.
Okay. One of the things that Carrie and I were going to talk about today, and I know in Tulsa we had some flooding, and there were even a car that was swept away. And in insurance, there are two different types of coverages that you want to make sure you have. One of them is called the collision. That's kind of self-explanatory if you have a wreck into something. And the other one is comprehensive. Carrie, how would you, do you have a thought on what the comprehensive would cover?
I would think just about everything, because comprehensive meaning inclusive, I would think.
It is, and kind of what they used to teach us in the industry is comprehensive is basically everything else besides colliding with another vehicle or an animal. That's kind of the funny caveat in Oklahoma and everything like that. And that covers hail damage, flooding, rain, tornado, somebody takes a baseball bat to your car. But a lot of people don't have the comprehensive coverage, and so they really, really need that and everything.
And we just had an attorney in our office who experienced a horrible downpour of hail on his vehicle, and his insurance actually totaled out his car.
I know, and it was nearly brand new. It was about 6-8 months old and still in great condition, and you really couldn't tell that much hail damage until you got right up on it and everything like that. Luckily, Jack, the one, he was with his kids, and the hail was so strong when it did total out the car, he did have gap insurance. That's another important thing
to make sure
to have, because Carrie, I know you deal with a lot of our clients that unfortunately don't have the gap insurance. And Oklahoma is a fair market value state, which means they're going to pay the fair market value of your vehicle. And sometimes your car's worth 10 and you owe 15.
Right. And you don't want to be upside down and still owe 5,000 when you need the gap insurance.
Right. If you can afford that, you definitely have to have the gap insurance, everything like that.
Yeah.
We're going to spend probably most of our time today talking, Carrie, about home losses.
Oh, yeah.
And also in Oklahoma, very common to have dwellings on your premises. Carrie, where are you from originally?
I am from upstate New York originally, so we are not too familiar with the tornadoes around there.
Not a lot of those tornadoes, and then probably people don't have a lot of barns in their backyards.
Not as many as you would think.
Okay. Well, one of the things that's most important in Oklahoma, I think, is to understand on your homeowners, you have two different types of coverages. One, you've got your dwelling. And that is your structure. And Carrie, that's usually where you lay your head at night.
Yes.
Okay. That's kind of just an old definition of that. That's your main residence. The other structure that you make sure you have covered are your other structures, other dwellings. Carrie, do you have a she shed at your house?
I do not have a shed at my
have
house.
A she shed. Okay.
Do
Well, in
not.
Oklahoma, very common to have barns, man shacks, metal shops. A lot of people store things. You need to pull out your policy. You need to have those covered and specifically listed, because if you think they're covered, usually that's a bad thing.
Right. Right.
You don't want to assume.
And we've actually had one of our girls here who just experienced a fire in their shop and is going through a little bit of that as well.
And it is. Luckily, Karen and her family, they had some really good coverages. Her husband is a car expert and
lots of restorations.
Lots of restorations. Karen told me the other day that they have been collecting some of these tools since her husband was 17 years old. And they luckily had enough on the dwelling and on the coverage for the contents.
Yeah.
And that's so very important to have. One of the things that is so important, I think, in the insurance industry, Carrie, is to have sometimes what's called extra coverage or a rider. And most policies on your home have a small cap on things like guns, jewelry, coin collections. Sometimes it's really low, maybe $1,500 or $2,000, which is not a lot of coverage. A couple of guns, a couple of shotguns, and you can be in the $8,000-$10,000 range.
Well, and I think if you can afford just a little bit extra for your insurance, it's definitely worth it. You should pay for it.
Well, and you want to find out. I mean, you need to ask those questions, because you don't want to find out that you've got some coin collections, some stamp collections, you've got some jewelry from your family.
And it wasn't insured.
No. Sometimes those can be maybe a couple of $100s a year. And if you've got $5,000 or $10,000, and sometimes the gold can really add up. You've got grandma's ring, you've got your mom's.
Family heirlooms.
Those are really important about that. So again, Carrie, it's important to pull out your policy, check it. And,
I recommend everybody and go and talk to your agent. Go over everything with your agent. See if you've got everything covered.
Right. And the other thing too, we always tell people is video everything. I know in Karen's fire, they had some pretty significant damage, but luckily it wasn't such a crispy critter event that they could.
Well, and I also recommend, just try to go around your house and just take pictures of everything.
Absolutely.
Even the smallest, a table, just take a picture of it. You do have a fire or a tornado hits your house. I mean, you've got to kind of account for everything. So it's a good idea to have photos.
Right. Because do you keep all your receipts?
I do not keep all my, I might have most of them in my purse.
Yeah, in your purse. Okay. The other thing too, on your contents, surprisingly, your clothes. I mean, because you've got, husband and 2 kids. For example, you guys might have 8 or 10 winter coats that you've had and everything. And hey, things add up and everything like that. So take pictures of it.
And you just don't realize how much stuff you've accrued for so long. And so, but definitely sit down with your agent, go over everything, and add stuff as you need it.
Right. One of the things that we wanted to talk about, and we don't do a lot of the homeowners claims, so to speak, but they can be very frustrating for people. But one of the things that we always talk about is, especially with tornado season and everything like that, lots of roof damage.
Oh, yeah.
You probably didn't have many hailstorms up in New York, did you?
We did have some bad weather once in a while.
You did have some bad weather. Well, Carrie is a Army brat?
I am.
And her husband, she got long away from that, so she married a guy from the Navy, right?
That's right.
Everything like that. One of the important factors to know in your homeowner's policy is my roof covered?
Yeah.
So, Carrie, do you know, are you savvy enough on your policy to know the difference if you have actual cash value or if you have replacement value?
I think, you know what, I don't. I know that I did pay a bunch to have the insurance to pay for it to have it fixed. So I don't know.
Okay.
See, this is why you need to check your
This is why you need
policy.
to check. The big difference is replacement cost is more expensive, but replacement cost is actually what you're paying for. Is you are paying to have your roof replaced. And a lot of times, Carrie, a lot of the TV ads for insurance really are stressing payment, they can save you some money.
Right.
They can save you $400, $500, $600.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just price comparison, hey, you can find a cheap deal,
Right.
but sometimes you don't know what you're paying for.
Yeah.
So the replacement cost is basically that. It's normally so much better and it provides more coverage. So let's say you've got a $15,000 roof, hailstorm roars through town, and your roof is a total loss. They'll come out and they'll say, hey, Carrie, here's your $15,000 check. We are going to take off your deductible.
Mm-hmm.
So here's $13,000.
Right.
And at that point, a lot of times people can kind of swing that extra $2,000 and everything like
Right.
that. But Carrie, one of the big deals and one of the issues is if you have actual cash value,
Mm-hmm.
It is cheaper. And a lot of people just want to be the payment shoppers, right?
Right.
Or I understand budgets are tight. We are
Mhm.
all stretched to the limits, dual families, kids. I mean, kids aren't cheap. Trust me. I've got two and Carrie's got two. And we'd be really probably better off if we didn't have those blessings that we have. Sometimes they're a little easier to deal with. And what's the old line? Loving your kids is easy, but liking them sometimes, that's the hard part. Okay, here's what actual cash value means is in an actual cash value, they're going to come out and they're going to make an estimate on your hail damage.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing they're going to whack off is something called depreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And depreciation, Carrie, is when you've got a 15-year roof and at the 10-year mark,
Right.
you have a hailstorm. So let's say you got a 15-year roof. It cost you $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
You have a loss at the 10-year mark. They're going to take off 2/3 of that. They're going to take off $10,000. They're going to take off $10,000 of that roof. So now you're down to $5,000. And Carrie, you're still going to whack off the depreciation.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're at $5,000. You take off $2,000 for your deductible, and you've got a $3,000 check. So Carrie, I know you're great with finances, but
you cannot afford a new roof with $3,000.
Yeah, can you stretch that to get
I don't. Not even I could do that.
I know. Carrie is great. So you've got $3,000 and you saved $800 last year on insurance. Okay, but you've got a $13,000 problem.
Right.
Or, what's my math? No, it's 5 minus 2, 3. You got $3,000. Sorry, I don't do math. Carrie does my math for me. And so you've now got a totaled roof. You've got $3,000 in your pocket. And here's
I don't know any contractors that will do a new roof for $3,000.
No. And just so you know, if you don't have the right coverage, Carrie, what would you do if your bank came to you, your mortgage company, and said, Carrie, you guys need to put a new roof on here because it's a total loss and it's going to ruin the house. We're going to have water damage and mold and it's going to ruin the asset. So we are going to make you, Carrie, put a new roof on there. So at that point in time, you've got to go borrow money or refinance your house, anything like that. So those are the reasons why in springtime in Oklahoma, one of the most important things is have the round table with your spouse, your partner, your significant other. Pull out the policies, read them. Lots of questions sometimes people have. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. We're here. We've got some excellent sites attached to our website with some help and assistance. You can listen to this, you can re-listen to this and everything like that. But those are just things to educate yourself. And one of the greatest things, Carrie, is call your team, call your insurance company because you're paying for a service. And if you've got questions, go on the 1-800 number and they will list everything out. And you want to know. You don't want to assume anything. One thing too, Carrie, that I always like to stress to people, and it's kind of boring reading, but your insurance policy will control in that if you think you got coverage, and even if your broker told you had coverage for something, the policy controls, and it's called the deck sheet, the declaration page. If you think you've got a rider for guns and he told you got a rider, but it's not in your policy,
It's not there.
It's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might have a second claim against your agent, but then you got a he said, she said problem.
Yeah.
And those are tough. So don't just think that you had it in writing. You got it.
Well, and and every year you kind of got a renewal period for your insurance. So it's a good time to sit there and go through it and then talk with the agent about everything. And, you may have had changes in your life and you need to add stuff or remove stuff, so I would definitely recommend talking to your insurance company about it.
Now, Carrie, it looks like we've got a question on there from one of our people. And what does it say?
It says, how do I know if my homeowner's insurance policy covers my home in case it is destroyed by a tornado? And what do I need to ask for?
Okay. One of the things, Carrie, I think that what you need to do is you need to pull out your policy. There is a definition section in there, and it will talk about things. One of the things I have found, Carrie, it's important to ask lots of questions because some policies will cover for tornadoes, but some policies will have a different coverage for high wind.
Right.
And I know a couple of years ago on the coast, there was lots of litigation on the difference of what caused my home to be destroyed. Was it the hurricane, or was it the high winds, or was it the storm surge, which are all different coverages. So I think on that, you just need to ask.
Yeah. So. And and I also recommend, just sitting with a notepad and a pen and just start writing down some questions and don't think that any of them are stupid questions.
Right.
I mean, you need to know.
Right. That's an excellent point. Go through, because I know sometimes clients will call and they've read through their policy and they get to the third page and they start calling, or they get to the fifth page. Just write them all down, do some research, do some Google and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of terminology that most of us don't know. So
yeah, there's a lot of terminology that lawyers don't know either, but we usually go to the books and get in those and everything like that.
No, so. and I did note that oddly enough, we've been having earthquakes too, and so they actually have coverage for that stuff now.
They do, Carrie. And did you guys have a lot of earthquakes up in New York?
Just here.
Just here, yeah. So you're happy to be here, right?
Yeah,
all those things that you don't have.
Yes.
Yeah. We do have earthquake coverage. It is now offered. Again, ask your insurance agent. I'm kind of paraphrasing the article. There was a article 6 months ago, though, Carrie, and it talked about, I think, out of 800 claims that have been made to insurance companies, I think they paid like 12 of them or something like that. Bad. So it's bad.
Well, and I know even with my house, you can see where there's some cracks that weren't there before, and it seemed to start happening right after the earthquakes happened.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the things insurance companies know. It's so hard to pinpoint. Because you do have to have scientific evidence. Oklahoma, we have lots of shifting and weather related, and lots of temperature inversions and everything like that.
So Wilson, I think I had a couple of questions though,
sure.
As far as who pays for what for the weather conditions. So for instance, I came to work the other day and there was part of a tree laying in my parking spot.
Okay.
Had my car actually been parked there when it fell, who pays for that?
Well, that's a great question, and sometimes typical question you ask a lawyer, and I'm going to answer it with a question. Oftentimes we don't know because sometimes there's some coverages for, let's say our boss Pat knew that tree was rotten and he'd just been putting it off. I think in that situation where he had knowledge and notice, I think that you've probably got a good claim that it would be covered under usually the general policy here. Sometimes, though, I have actually seen cases where the insurance company will say, hey, we had a 90-mile-an-hour wind last night, and that was act of God or completely unforeseeable, and the tree had just been pruned 2 months ago. And so sometimes you can get into some coverages, and insurance companies don't be surprised when they try to say, Carrie, that's a comprehensive claim, and you need to make that. And that's where it does get frustrating because people are worried about those.
Right.
But it's sometimes too, I've had calls over my career where the neighbor's tree who's hanging over your driveway falls.
Yeah, because I know that, with all the storms we've been having, I've seen a lot of trees down recently. So, but it just should be known that my car wasn't there, so it's okay.
Okay. So it says, what coverage does my dog go under in home insurance?
Oh, yeah.
That's usually kind of just part of the liability part. I know actually we've had some staff members, and I think you had talked about this. Dogs kind of go crazy.
They do.
in the
They
storm.
do.
So
Oh, yeah. Mine, yeah.
Everything. But normally that will fall under your homeowners coverage for the liability section. And as a side note, I know lots of people rent houses. I'm in a rent house right now. And you really need renter's insurance.
Oh, yeah.
We have so many calls from people that have serious dog bites from a neighbor down the street, and there's no insurance.
Yeah.
And those are super frustrating. And
right.
like
and you need to also check with your insurance on that too, because some dogs are excluded.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Lots of dogs are excluded. So be sure and you don't have that and everything like that.
Yeah.
So,
let's see. So we have a tornado. It comes through, it blows the windows out of your house. Your homeowner's insurance should cover that, correct?
Homeowners should cover that, yes. And then what you would do is you would have dwelling coverage, and then you would have a separate category in there for contents. And I think, too, a lot of times people will really bring their contents levels down because they don't think they have that much.
Right.
But furniture and carpets and jewelry and lots of those things. Also, double check your policy that if you do have some damage that you've paid maybe a little bit extra, which is not much to have, like a place to stay, a place to live, in a hotel, paying for that. Some people say, hey, I'm going to save $50. I don't need that coverage. Well, when you're talking $50 or $100.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot for some people.
Yeah, it is. And then to be out that money for a hotel, and I mean, it's tough and everything.
Well, and then we've had flooding too. So same for that.
Right. Oh yeah. Lots of things, but just be proactive, be careful, turn around, don't drown. And hey, take these things seriously, and listen to the weather forecast, get your apps out and everything like that. Also with your homeowners, always check your, smoke alarms. Just, be careful, be careful, be proactive and everything like that.
Definitely.
Well, Carrie, I have greatly appreciated your time.
Absolutely.
You're one of our great staff members here, and you're pleasant. You've got a great voice, and we asked her to talk really slow today, which I think she did, and hopefully she did, because she can get wound up sometimes. But just one of our great staff members. We have an office in Tulsa. We have an office in Oklahoma City. We have 10 different attorneys that cover the state, and again, to touch base on the 20-year anniversary, our thoughts and prayers are with the people in war, and those scars and situations, can linger. But just to be careful, be safe, and
if you have any questions, just give us a call. We'll be happy to answer anything that we can.
Right.
Do you want to go ahead and give them the phone number to call?
It's 918-747-1000 is the Tulsa number. And then we also have a toll-free number for the state of Oklahoma. And just call us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. We've got a Tulsa office and Oklahoma City office. Cover the state.
Good.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Carrie.
Thank you for joining us. Have a good afternoon.